see you there without my glasses on. Oh, there you are. How are you doing today? I'm darning socks. Damn big hole, but they're a very nice pair of socks, so I thought I might try darning socks today. I don't know how to do that, but I'm just going to make it up as I go. I've got my little heel, pretty bad mandarin that probably needs to be thrown out. I think it's a bit small, I probably need an orange rather than a mandarin, and work out what I'm doing. So I'm actually having a resting, nurturing day. I've had a very stressful week, you could say. Overworked, which is really funny in our time of stage 4 lockdown for COVID-19 when my business is closed. But I was doing some, I suppose you could call it voluntary work, and today's my first nurturing myself day. That's what was discussed in conversation with a girlfriend last night as to what was happening to me with my stress attack. So I thought I would make a little film about nurturing oneself, and in a moment I'm going to do something more exciting than darn a sock, but right now I'm darning a sock because I've done one sock. I've got to finish the second sock. I felt that I needed a bit of grounding, and what better grounding than a bit of sewing, and I had a bit of sewing to do. And here's my hint: if you're going to do some hand sewing, try not to make your length of cotton longer than your arm, because it's hard to stitch with, which is what I did on the last sock. Made it very difficult. I don't know whether to stitch left to right or right to left, but I'm having a go. But anyway, so what I'm going to do next, because I was thinking I'm going to be nurturing myself, and I've got till, what's it now, 1:30. Anyway, so I'm going to make, sorry I'm rambling, I'm going to make rum balls. I've been hanging out to make rum balls for a while, and I thought, there's a treat. If I'm going to be nurturing myself, forget fresh apple pieces and grapes and strawberries. You see grapes for $15 a kilo. Oh, must be coming from America. I suppose it's not really our season for grapes. And celery sticks and hummus, you could have that if you like. But I wanted rum balls. I don't have any rum. That's okay, because I've got rum flavouring. I want to try it with the rum flavouring. Okay, let's see how we've gone here. Hey Angel, here's my boy. You're thinking I had food in my hands. I'm sorry to disappoint you. These are nice compression socks. See how my stitching's gone. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's not too bad. If I need jaws around the edge there. Let's see how the other one's gone. This was my first sock. Oh, it's probably going to be a little bit annoying. But I suppose I'm just not used to darn socks. Sorry, sweetie, it's not food. I'll give you some food in a minute. Yes, Daddy, it's not good boy. Good boy. Good boy. There we go. Oh, yeah, that's not too bad. That's just about out of the way of my heels. Excellent. All right, rum balls. Okay, so here I am with my ingredients, or most of the ingredients for my rum balls. Baking tray, that's what I was thinking. The baking tray with the paper on. Okay. Okie dokie. So here I am ready for my rum balls, and I had to Google the recipe because I couldn't remember, and when I did that I found out that I didn't have any desiccated coconut. Not that I like coconut anyway. I'm not going to use desiccated coconut because I couldn't be bothered going down the shop to get some desiccated coconut. So we've got our Mari biscuits. just reminded me as I paused there, because they were my father's favourite biscuits. And then it reminded me that I'm wearing my mother's clothes today. The jacket's mine, but that was her favourite shirt that I so hated. And they're her trousers that she so loved. She loved both of those. So in my grounding day today, I thought I needed a bit of mama presents. Anyway, so I'm going to crush up my Marie biscuits into a bag with a rolling pin, crush it up. Then I'm going to add the sweetened condensed milk. Some recipes suggested the lighter stuff, full of rubbish in it. Get the real sugary, heavy stuff. And some cocoa powder. It's certified organic, so that makes up for it's the balance. You know, when they say balancing things, you balance the heavy with the organic. And then my rum essence, of which I have about that much, so hopefully that's enough. I'll have to trial it with that. And I'm going to risk the biscuit. I'm not going to make 2 batches, which is what I thought I might do. One with rum, one without, in case the rum made it really bad. But, you know, it's got cocoa in it, it's got condensed milk, it's got Marie biscuits. I'm going to eat it anyway, whether it's rubbish or not. So, let's put our Marie biscuits into our placky bag. Save making a mess. I'm going to put that in there and then open it up. It's a little trick for you, a little tip I just thought of. Makes less mess and you don't lose any biscuits if you put it into there. There we go. Okie dokies, there's my Marie biscuits. Now when I googled there we go. When I googled the recipe, it actually didn't specify how much. So I don't know if I needed 2 of these biscuits or more or less. I do have another packet there. So we're just going to have to play around and see 1 Marie biscuit to 1 condensed tin, 395 gram condensed tin to, this was 250 grams, it's about a third of 250, maybe a third. 250 into 3s, 25 into 3s, half is 12. So thirds would be 8, 16, 24, so 8 and a bit, that's 80 something grams. Alright, now we're going to roll with a rolling pin. That was the instruction. Hope I don't break my bag. And those who wrote the said that they liked to do a rolling pin. You put it in a mixer, blender or whatever. They said they like roll pins to get a mixture of the sizes of the biscuit, so you get some big biscuit bits and little bits. No, not like that. That'll be alright. I can use a bit of that. Good rolling pin. If you ever invest in a rolling pin, you want one that rolls on the handles. I never grew up with rolling on the handles. There was a blowing our hands. But this one I found in the house 15 years ago, so that was a bonus. It's meant to be along with a matching chopping board about furniture. So sorry to previous tenants or owners in the house who left it behind by accident. I'm enjoying your rolling pin. I have to do the plant rolling pin and chopping board. Okay, one there. One of the plates are full over. Some crumbs and some big bits. Just give a little bit more. Get those big bits into little bits. Plastic bag is held up well. Pop that to the table before we have it. So those who know me and my Ayurvedic cooking, this is not that. But sometimes you need to nurture yourself. And it would be better to nurture myself with a walk than eating rum balls. But balance is what it's about. Balancing the good with the bad. Oh, that's looking pretty good now. Okay. From an Ayurvedic perspective, this would be a grounding food because it's heavy. The biscuits itself being wheat and so forth. But I'd say the heaviness of the condensed milk and the sweetness would make it heavy, which is the grounding, which is what I've been wanting. When you're anxious, so here's a bit of an Ayurvedic lesson whilst we're cooking. So Ayurveda talks about Vata, Pitta and Kapha doshas. These are our body intelligences. Vata, Pitta and Kapha. And Vata, Pitta and Kapha are also in everything else. So if this is your first hearing of Vata, Pitta and Kapha, let me just say a little bit about it. Vata, spelled V-A-T-A, Pitta, spelled P-I-T-T-A, and Kapha, spelled K-A-P-H-A. Now there are 5 elements in the world: air, ether, being space, fire, water, earth. When I say there are 5 elements in the world, that's what we talk about in Ayurveda, because I know Chinese medicine has metal and wood, I think, but that's probably part of our earth, since they come from the earth. So Vata is made up of air and wind. Ether being air, space, and wind. Pitta is made of fire and water, and Kapha is earth and water. And the qualities of those elements combine to make those doshas. They're called the Vata, Pitta, Kapha doshas. That's when they're in balance, they're doshas. Or is that when they're out of balance, they're doshas? We generally call them doshas, body intelligences. So we're born with our proportion of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and that comes at conception depending on the balance of our parents and what their doshas are and whether their doshas are imbalanced or not. So that's where I'm going with that. So when there's stress and anxiety in our world, as COVID-19 tends to be producing for people, but generally even still, Vata is the dosha that goes out of balance easiest. So even though I am dominated Pitta Kapha, I could still have a Vata imbalance. And Vata's movement. So if I move a lot, driving a lot, when I drove to Brisbane, I think I got a bit of Vata imbalance because there was a lot of movement. Travelling in aeroplanes, anxiety, stress, all those things lead to Vata imbalance. Pitta imbalance tends to more anger. It's metabolism. Pitta is involved with metabolism, so it's the digestion, stomach upsets, the anger when you get imbalanced. And Kapha, which is earth and water, tends to be more of the depression and the slow down and the couch potato and eating of rum balls. Lead to an imbalance of Kapha. So in my week of stress, so there was anxiety and it was stress, but it wasn't really a Vata stress. In the end, I concluded it was more of a Pitta because I was very angry and frustrated, which is a Pitta imbalance. So when I went into imbalance this week, it was a Pitta, and it was because I was, as I said before, overworking in terms that I was doing 8 to 10 hours a day carer duties. So when there's a Vata imbalance and it's ether and air and the anxiety, then grounding is important. The heaviness to bring you back to earth. So that's the rum balls. And other things more, like imagining your feet are rooted in the ground and you can feel the roots spreading down and pulling you down to the ground. That's what, when you have a Vata imbalance and you feel like you're confused and there's too much and there's all these things going on and you can't manage it all, that's when you need the grounding. That's where the meditation and the deep breathing and all those things to bring you back down. And because most people will have a Vata imbalance, that's a great technique for everybody. The either imagining that your feet are on the ground. Be great if you can go outside. It's winter and cold out there at the moment in August, Melbourne. So I'm not going outside. I'm just going to imagine I'm standing on where I'm standing and I'm on the ground and my roots are coming out through, call it energy, call it whatever you like, but think of yourself like a tree and really being grounded and not the swaying around movement that Vata would be causing, right? So if you're Vata imbalanced, you want Kapha to bring you down. If you're Kapha imbalanced, where you're sitting on the couch and you don't want to do anything, then you want the movement to get you off. and that's where regularity and motivation and a bit of exercise and walking will rebalance the Kapha, because you're going to bring in some Vata. Pitta, which is the angry and the workaholic, needs some Kapha to balance, the sitting still and the meditating and those sorts of things. And with that, I'm adding Rum Balls. See, you can always come back to Rum Balls. Rum Balls is always a good idea. So that's your bit of Ayurveda whilst I'm making my Rum Balls, and that's my justification for making Rum Balls. Now, I do not know how much of this to add, so I'm just going to add some, and we're going to see how it turns out. Now, when I Googled, it suggested that I would start with a wooden spoon. Oh, there's a cocoa. It's more cocoa, white chocolate. And then have to go with hand mixing. So we're going to do that, and I've got gloves for that. Even though I did wash my hands, we're all trained in hand washing now. 20-second hand washing, the 10 different techniques of delivering your hands whilst scrubbing. I remember as a kid, this is call it bad parenting if you like. I had two parents at that stage because I was I'm 13, I'm 10. I remember eating a can of condensed milk. Straight from the can. And I remember noticing, and I remember telling my parents, that my handwriting changed. It became larger when I was writing. And that would just be a sugar fix straight to the brain that my handwriting would become. I used to write a lot. I was a story writer as a kid. I was a story writer, but I used to spend my spare time writing stories, and so it's a can of condensed. This is the thickened condensed milk, not that other thin stuff, the carnation stuff, what's that called? Carnation milk. That kind of condensed, I don't know what they call it. But that's not this stuff, it was this stuff that I used to eat on the tin. Those were the days when I was small and skinny. Okay. I have to read the tin afterwards just to make sure I don't waste it. The Italian side of me doesn't like any waste. Okay. So that's my 395 gram tin of cheap condensed milk, sweetened condensed milk, because we've got a lot of fat stuff. And certainly if you have diabetes, you do need to be a little bit more cautious and not eat Rum Balls. But, well, probably eat one, just not a whole batch. Which means that you probably don't make them, because if you make them then you're going to eat the whole batch, especially if you're I just had this thought that I don't eat enough condensed milk, and I don't put more condensed milk, so basically. So I'm going to make sure it can be good mixing together. And I can see that looking really dry. I think once I get my hands in, you'll see some differences. I'm going to get into my doing fantastic now. Alright, here comes the time to get the hands involved. And it's just something about mixing things. Same with flour. When I'm mixing flour and water to make the busty, the round dough thing, the busty treatments that I do, Ayurvedic treatment, I just can't put my hands in. The same with gardening and dirt. I just can't get dirt under my fingernails. I'm just one of those people who just don't like dirt under my fingernails. But give me a pair of gloves and it'll be alright. Didn't put an apron on. Oh well. I'm going to do a wash load anyway. One thing that I was taught in cooking, you must taste your ingredients. Oh, the rum will provide some moisture. I probably should put that in already, but I've got dirty hands now. Let's mix it all up, see how we go, and then see about adding some rum. Oh yeah, it's coming good. It's coming good. I'll be able to make balls out of this. But the gloves are going to come with it. The coconut would add a bit more stability to it, but I reckon that'd be nice just as balls. Okay, I'm going to mix it a bit more, and then I'm going to take the gloves off and add the rum in. To get a fresh pair of gloves. Yes, probably a bit too much on the dry ingredients and not enough on the moist. So there's a couple of ways you could go. One is less than a packet of Mari biscuits. Another is less cocoa. Or the other one, which is probably more me, is more condensed milk. More condensed milk. But I have a feeling that the rum is going to help with the moisture. Okay, so let's just get off our gloves as much as we can, so we're not wasting ingredients. Much of the biscuits in there, but anyway. Alright, so now, here's the rum. It says natural rum. How can you have natural rum flavouring essence? Ingredients: glycerine, water, natural rum flavours. So a teaspoon of rum flavouring equals a tablespoon of rum. Oh, that's good. That's good to know. No, it's all done now. There we go. Oh, these are good. These are good. This is good. Right moisture now. So that rum did make a difference. But I probably have a spare condensed milk on hand. But that size to that rum. Woo! That size to that biscuit size. I'm going to add some vanilla essence. Because at least that'll taste nice. There's nothing really tasty about that. I'm adding it. It's not in the ingredients, but I'm going to add some vanilla essence because there's not a lot of taste to it. Really careful that it's not going to make it too moist. How will I do this? I'll just do this and then I'll sort it out. Alright, let's mix it in with that vanilla essence and see if that might give some of the flavour. I should actually break it in half and give it a bit of a that way, that way. Now, don't let the ease of what this looks like fool you. I'm a massage therapist. I've got good, strong arms. So if you're doing this and you're going, oh my gosh, I can't do it like she's doing it, it's okay. 20 years of massaging will build your arms up. On the other hand, if you're doing it much easier than me, well, good on you. All right. I think it's time to make them into balls. Just the problem is it doesn't taste great. I wonder what else I've got. Make it taste great. Sure, the last lot tastes good. So now I'm going to roll it into balls. So what the Google said, the recipe on Google that I read said, was dip it into the baking ball and roll it into the coconut. But I'll roll it into the coconut, I'm missing anymore. I'm going to have to just take my glasses off so I can see it better. And secondly, I don't care of glass. No, that's going to do it. Build a ball. Now I'm going to roll it around. And this is when you roll it into the coconut. If you have any ingredient, and then bigger ones in the box. Or whatever you can fix up these little ones here. These are to go in the fridge. Where they're destined to before being eaten. There's a mother of a rum ball. I'm disappointed with the rum to taste very much. But anyway. Alright, so whilst I'm finishing this off, I'll just say a few more things about the Vata Pitta Kapha, if you like. So, the Vata dosha, which is made up of air and ether, people with that as a dominating dosha tend to be creative. So they might be artists in whatever form artistry they might take. And so creative in mind, but because it's movement, they're fast thinkers, fast talkers, fast doers, run hell for leather and then collapse. And I often like to when I talk about comparing Kapha and Vata, if you think of the story about the tortoise and the hare, so the hare would be the Vata, would have the Vata dominating characteristic, because he was running really fast and running backwards and forwards, and then he ended up having a snooze and losing. That's where I suppose the term comes, you snooze, you lose. Yeah, Vata's, from that perspective, creative. Body shape type, because it's air and ether, there's no big structure. Like, they might be tall, but they're very skinny. And they might work hard at building muscle, but they don't necessarily get a lot of muscle if it's too much Vata in their dosha. People with a Vata domination tend to actually fight underweight more than overweight. Because they have a fast metabolism, they might eat like a horse and then don't put on any weight, but their body burns it up quickly. So they might eat a lot and then they'll go bouncing off all the walls, and then they come back, want to eat some more. So their bodies tend to be slender, and you can see their bone bits. You'll see collarbones, you'll see elbows and knobbly knees, and I shouldn't say knobbly knees, you'll see knees. There'll be protrusion of joints because they don't have a lot of earth, because it's air and ether. Whereas Kapha at the other end tend to have the biggest, broad shoulders, bigger, stronger body. So I'm certainly Pitta dominated in my characteristics, the early greying, the able to build muscles, the checklist person, so it's fire and water, so it's probably a bit more fire than there is water. So there's the burning up, so hot, so people who are Pitta tend to be hot, more so. Vata are cold. Vata are the ones who will be wearing long sleeves and jumpers in summer. Pitta will be the ones wearing t-shirts in winter and shorts in winter, because they don't, they tend to be hot because it's metabolism and fire and those sorts of things. Kapha doesn't like, because Kapha's water and earth, don't like humidity and dampness, because that's more Kapha. And I'm coming back to Kapha. So Pitta we're saying muscular. So Pittas balance, weight-wise, tend to be balanced. They don't gain a lot, they don't lose a lot, they're stable throughout life. So that's the Pitta dosha. And people with a dominating Pitta who like their checklists and like to go hard and strong tend to really push themselves beyond their limits. I remember doing that. I was doing a boot camp an exercise boot camp. Yeah, that's what I thought too. This would have been about 11 years ago. And in this boot camp, we had to run, I don't know, that time where you run a bit, run back, run a bit more, run back, run a bit more. And I pushed myself so hard, which is probably the competitive streak in the Pitta. Pitta tends to be competitive. I pushed myself so hard, I was vomiting afterwards. And this is like 6 in the morning because there wasn't much to vomit, it was just water. But that's what Pitta tend to do. Pitta will push themselves beyond their capacities. Another way I like to describe the Pitta, characteristic of Pitta is, because Pittas are leaders. Everybody's going to stand behind a Pitta because Pitta's clear and precise, and Pitta knows where they're going, and you can't move a Pitta. Pitta's going this way, right? I've run out of room. I'm going to have to move you all a bit closer so I can get some more in rather than get another tray, because I can't be bothered getting another tray. This is the Pitta in me, determined to make it all fit. Or as Kapha would go, it's okay, I'll go get another tray. Oh, don't stick together, you're not allowed to stick together. 1.5 metres apart, remember? Okay. Okay, so that was Pitta. And then Kapha, who has earth and water, they're the motherly type. Kapha Kapha's grounded. Kapha tends to be a bit slower because it's earth and grounding and will like to think about things. So if you ask Vata a question, they'd probably answer you before you'd finished speaking. If you asked a Pitta-dominated person a question, they would think a moment and then give you a precise answer, and they're not going to shift from that precise answer. Even if they know it's wrong, they're going to argue to the death that that's the right answer. Maybe the balanced ones aren't like that, maybe it's an imbalance. And Kapha, if you ask them a question, you need to give them time to think about it, digest it, explore all the options, and then they'll come back to you with an answer. So people who are Kapha dominated tend to frustrate Vatas. But Vatas also frustrate Kaphas because by the time Kapha's made a decision, Vatas changed their mind and gone on to something else. Oh dear. Pittas probably have a bit more patience with a Kapha because they want the right answer. So if they know that they need to have time to think about it, they'll let them because they want the right answer, because there is only one right answer. That's probably been a bit rough on that one. And so yeah, so Kapha tends to be a little bit slower getting out of bed. I remember I've got this girlfriend, Lisa, who lives, hi Lisa, if you're watching, lives in Ballarat now, but we went to Warrnambool Institute together, and I would ride my push bike into town, where she was living behind one of the shops in town, and then we would catch a bus and go out the other end to Warrnambool Institute, which is now called Deakin University Warrnambool campus. But we would do this is back in the mid-80s, 86, 87, 88, and I'd often get to Lisa's and she's still having her cup of tea. And she's just moving so slow. The number of times we called her dad to pick us up and take us out to the institute because we'd missed the bus. Anyway, so Kapha, a little bit slower, like to think about things, take their time, don't like to be rushed. But they're the rock. They're the solid rock. They're the person you go to when you want advice or comforting or stability. So the Kapha people tend to be that. So the people who say to me, why are people always asking me advice? Why do they always come to me with their problems? That's because you've got Kapha and you listen. Kaphas listen. Vatas don't listen, they're too busy talking. Pittas don't listen because they're too busy being in their head about what they're going to say next. Whereas Kapha will listen and they'll take in what you say and they'll offer you advice if you want it. Whereas Pitta will offer you advice whether you want it or not. And Vata will offer you advice and then they'll change their mind. And then they'll change their mind back again. And you'll be like, man, I don't know, I'm not going to ask you because you just can't settle on an answer. Yeah, so the reason I'm bringing this up whilst I'm making my last 2 Rum Balls now, is that it's good to know what your dominating dosha is, because it explains things about you that you may not have realised before. And you can go, oh, that's because I'm such and such. So for instance, Pitta are very competitive. Pitta love to compete, love to win. You know, the adult who plays cards with kids and won't let the kids win, that's a Pitta domination, because Pitta's got to win at all costs. The Kapha, the motherly, grounded, the Kapha will consider that it might be time for the kids to win. Oh, I think I've got a flashing batteries running flat. My battery's running flat. All right, so here's my Rum Balls. Thank you very much for listening. I'll do another session on Vata, Pitta and Kapha, but I'll eat these myself and I'll catch you around. Bye.